Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pod TV's #1 do-it-yourself advocate show, Timeshare Solutions or Surrender. This is June 2nd, 2025, and we are on episode 66. And you know what? I can't thank Irene enough and the Tarda team for all of the work that they have done helping so many people find the solutions that they need to turn their timeshare situation into a good solution, because that's what Irene is all about. Everyone, help me welcome my superhero and her team, Irene and Tarda. Hi, Irene.
Hi, good to be back. I can't, I'm halfway. It was wonderful meeting the other Pod TV producers at an event in Raleigh. It was an impressive bunch of guys, and we have. I would talk a little bit more about that, but we have a very full show today, beginning with one of our best solutions is Jonathan with Vacation Owner Advisory. Did I get that right?
Vacation Ownership Advisor, or VOA Worldwide. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
voaworldwide.com, correct?
Yeah, and Kim, when I heard that, well, let me introduce the other people, and I'll explain why I asked Jonathan to join us today. We first have joining us from California, Joe. And we've had some interesting guests on the show before, Jonathan, but we have two very unusual occupations today. We're going to talk about a little bit more about that in a minute. We have Linda, who is in Wisconsin, and we have finally with us today, we have Scott in Orlando. And I just, right, maybe 5 minutes before the show was to have people start getting on stage, I said, the difference between Sapphire Resorts that we're going to talk about today and most timeshare complaints is the dollar amount. Oh, I forgot another guest we have. Okay, we have Irene. That's because we can't see her, but we can hear her. She's also in California. Almost forgot you, Irene 2. I'm Irene 1 today. But the dollar amounts that I'm hearing are between $3,000 to $7,000. Most timeshare disputes involve $25,000 to $200,000 or more. And so I signed up for a My Resort Co-op, which is, and I signed up for the lowest level because we're not getting any younger and we don't know how many years we're going to travel. So my first year is $1,200. The second year, $600 and change. Third year, $600. And then I'm done, or I can renew. And I received 48,000 timeshare points my first year. So what we're hearing from and let me go over first before I introduced everybody, just what I've been aware of Sapphire Resorts management for several years, but I never did a deep dive into who they are, which is also why I reached out to Jonathan and the team we have researching and following My Resort Co-op. Okay, so we have Sapphire Resorts management, and some people purchase credits through Geo Holiday. We also have Getaway Resorts management. There's 48 Better Business Bureau complaints. There are the BBB post that they've received many complaints about deceptive sales and misrepresentations. I noticed one of the resorts on their website was Tahoe Beach and Ski. I know that to be an independent resort. They're also affiliated with the Jockey Club in Las Vegas. They mentioned Scottsdale Camelback. I know that's owned by Marriott, and Vacacia, which I may or may not be pronouncing correctly, is also listed as affiliated with Scottsdale Camelback. They purchased Vacation Village. So what I'm suspecting is that Sapphire, Getaways, Geo Holiday, they don't own all the resorts. I don't know if they own any of the resorts. They have inventory in those resorts. Now, we have, in addition to the Jockey Club, we have the Star Point. Now, when I looked up Star Point, it was owned by BG Resorts. But in the Nevada Independent publication, there was a story written about Tim Clark. And I say every day is Veterans Day at TARDA. So we have Scott, a Marine veteran, and we have Joe, a Navy veteran. So Tim Clark is a Navy veteran, retired, and he said he was approached by Starpoint to buy the Jockey Club. So that's the organizational chart. Jonathan, does that sound correct? Are you familiar with these names?
Yes, I'm familiar with the names. It's we'll say changed management many times inside of their different sales galleries. You have the Jockey Club, which is next to the Bellagio, which is where it's at, and then they sell right there. They sell inside of there.
Okay. All right. We're going to start, though, with Linda, because Linda is an overlap with both of our other guests. So Joe and Linda both purchased at, let's see, who did? Well, okay, two of you both purchased at Sedona Pines. And now Irene just told us right before the show started that she's the third one in today's show that it was not disclosed that it was triennial membership, use every 3 years. So Linda, let's start with you, how you got involved and where you're at with your dispute and why you're disputing.
Okay, well, I don't think my story is all that unusual, and just when you without the intention of buying a vacation club, but we did. The original sales pitch, which was presented to a group of people, was a 2-year membership type of thing, and they were described it as we would have 2 years to use your points, and of course, we just didn't want it. It was about $13,000, or $12,000 or $13,000. When we got to the part of our sales where we were with an individual sales representative, again, we said no. However, other people in the group were also saying no, and they were being dismissed. It ended up that we were the only ones left. And then once everyone else was gone, we had a second salesperson come over and offered us a sale. And that's how he described it. He says it was a today only sale. And we could get the same 33,000 credits, but instead of using it over 2 years, we could use it over 3 years. So that's where the triennial came from. And they used the term triennial, but the way they explained it to us was that we had 33,000 points to use within that 3-year period. It was 8 months later that we realized when we were trying to reserve our vacation for the following year that we couldn't reserve into the next year. So, and when we called, they told us we were trying to use illegal credits. So that's where
I have a question. Can you back up a minute? When you said it was a 3-year program, were you thinking it was just going to terminate in 3 years?
No, did not think that, but we thought we would be able to vacation throughout those 3 years. And we did not realize that we had to use our points all in 1 year. So we're paying maintenance fees every year, but we only get to use it every 3.
But they probably just took the maintenance fees for the 3rd year and divided it into 3 equal payments.
Yeah, I don't know. We pay this year we paid $700. So.
Okay. And then, so what was the problem?
Well, again, it was just a deceptive practice, I guess you could say, a deceptive sales pitch. You know, we didn't get what we thought we were getting. It's not something that we can use. There's so many points to use in 1 year, and yes, we can break it up, but it's really hard. I mean, you can't take a vacation every month. So 33,000 points is a lot to use in 1 year.
And did the contract state that it was triennial?
It does.
And did the salesperson did he explain that it was triennial?
He used the term triennial, but what was happening is, again, as my husband and I were talking about our vacations, I mean, it was very clear on our end how we were understanding what triennial meant. So we were describing, you know, how's it, this will be this, you know, we'll be able to use it this way. You know, we can spread it out a little bit. It just seems more comfortable for us. And they never corrected us. They just kept on repeating 33,000 points every 3 years, and never corrected us when we were kind of describing how we would use our vacation time.
So how are you describing it? How you would use it?
Again, you know, a vacation 1 year, and we would be, instead of having maybe a vacation every year, we'd take we'd take one at the beginning of 1 year, the end of another one. We'd spread it out over the 3 years, maybe 2 vacations in 3 years instead of 3.
And you explained that to the sales agent when you were talking to them?
It was pretty obvious that that's how we were understanding it. I think.
And then, yeah, and you had also mentioned, I didn't mean to interrupt, about what I thought was sort of bizarre was the heirs.
Yes.
That,
yes, we made it also very clear that we did not want this to be passed down to our kids in any way. So that's when they came up with this brilliant idea of having a term policy, and then it will end. You know, otherwise it keeps going. So he says, "Yep, well, we'll just make it a term policy then." The term policy ended up being 45 years, and I'd be 100 years old. So.
And I call it the heir scare. And every state has laws that allows an heir to disclaim an inheritance within a period of time after the date of death. You have to file a disclaimer. Okay. And then I wasn't quite following the activation points you had mentioned.
Right. So again, to kind of drive home that idea that we were getting a 3 year, that it was every 3 years, they told us that we could start using it this year, but we have to pay an activation fee of $200. So, okay, we'll start but what ended up happening, it was actually called holiday credits, and it wasn't an activation fee. It meant we had to use our points by the end of the year. Now, we started in March, we bought in March, and we would have had until the end of January to use all of our points up. It was not an activation fee. It was just so that we could schedule in, let's see, we bought in 22. So I'm not sure if we had not paid that, if it would have started the next year, but it was very confusing. They called it, and they even wrote it on. They even hand wrote it on one of our notes that it was an activation fee, but it just meant we just paid them $200 more to not use it.
And then you were accused of having your membership terminated by making illegal bookings.
Yes, because we were trying to. Once it was, I think it was October when I was trying to reserve. And I was using the website at the time, and it was having trouble with it. So I made a phone call, and that's when the representative said, "Well, you can't book it. You have to use it by the end of the year." And that's when we found out that that something was wrong with the understanding of what we purchased was not what we got. And so, of course, she eventually connected me with a manager, and I was very, very upset. He did offer to extend it till March so that we had a full year. But again, I was alone at the time. It's like, I'm not going to make decisions by myself. So I ended the call. And it's like, okay, my husband and I talked about it. It's like, okay, we're in it. So let's try to use our points. Tried to reserve something through RCI. And then I had a phone call again from the manager that said, call back immediately or we will terminate your membership. I mean, in hindsight, I wish I would have just had him terminate my membership. But so it was kind of ugly. I mean, the treatment was very ugly at that point, and just very degrading. And it's like, you will never be able to do this again. And it wasn't pleasant.
Well, and you bought on March 17th, 2022 for $5,999.
Yes.
And are you paid in full or are you still making payments?
We paid in full. That was the other thing. And that was the only thing that we actually came and looked at afterwards. We didn't want to get stuck with the interest rates. So right. We paid in full as soon as we got back from our original vacation. And that's really the only thing that we thought was that we needed to look at, because everything else throughout the sale, we went through the contract. Everything was paraphrased, but obviously not in enough detail that we should have definitely paid a little more attention. But when they're doing their sales pitch, covering up the contract with their hand on the way down as they're paraphrasing what all those wherever your initialing is. But yes, we had.
And you bought at Sedona Pines. I've stayed there. It looks like a trailer court. You have to turn sideways to pass who you're staying with in the kitchen. So, and then are you? What are the maintenance fees?
We paid $702 this year.
Okay, and we want to make a warning: if you do not understand the market, avoid listing services that charge an upfront fee. You paid Timeshares only $650 to watch the listing grow cold. And you can post your Timeshares for sale for free on TUG, Timeshare Users Group, or for, I believe it's $59 on Red Week. But there may be a place for these listing companies that charge an upfront fee, but not for a resort like this. Jonathan ran an honest timeshare sales force for Hilton. So Jonathan, would you like to comment on anything you've heard so far from Linda?
Yeah, Linda, thank you for sharing, your story. I worked for Hilton at West 57th in New York City. For a few years, also spent many years in Mexico with Vedanta Group, and ended my career with Marriott Vacation Club in Miami and in Las Vegas. I'm familiar with the property and the membership that you brought with, not extremely detailed, like knowing the contract inside and out. I am based in Las Vegas, so that resort is, a few miles from here. Familiar with the biannual and triannual. Something that I would love to look at is if it's set up under a triennial, what most likely is they'll take those maintenance fees, which is what's paid every third year. They divide them up, and that's what you're paying annually. You should have the right to be able to pull forward if you needed to, and then be able to use those. They shouldn't, and I'd have to look at the details. They shouldn't expire in a year, because they are affiliated with RCI as well. You should have an RCI membership, I believe, which is included into your membership, so to speak, because they have a network of properties. We'll call them a small network of properties that they call their home resort, which is more like affiliated properties that Irene was talking about. You should have the availability, and this is something that we can check together. You should have the availability to be able to take those points and then deposit those into RCI. Once you do that, RCI will give you 24 months to be able to utilize those points. So in essence, right, there's a way that you can do this to help at least extend it. is you could
Yeah,
take
wait a
your,
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let me, okay, if you've lost me, I think you're losing the other
Okay.
people. And this is what I really wanted to know, and I wanted, hoping somebody could tell me this today. So
Sure.
you have RCI, Sapphire credits. They call them credits, not points. So
Correct.
are you saying that she could have taken her 33,000 triannuals and deposited them with Red Week,
It
like an
not
exchange?
with Red Week, but
I'm sorry, I'm
yeah,
sorry, with RCI.
correct. And I don't want to. I want to say that I'm pretty much certain on this. I'd have to look at your contract to be able to make 100% certainty. But when you have resorts that are affiliated with RCI, they're affiliated with RCI for a reason. It's designed to be able to give the owners of that network, right? Which their resorts, Sapphire Resorts, has a small network of properties that they call their home resorts. When you purchase, and you can go to the resort, you go to the website Sapphire Resorts, and you will see the resorts that they call their home resorts or affiliated resorts that their members can use directly with their credits, and they could make reservations at. Now, if you're presenting and if you're looking at something like, for instance, Linda is thinking she wants to go to Europe as an example, the only way to get to Europe that way is either using an RCI exchange, a getaway, or some type of other travel discount that could be included in the program. So what I'd love to look at with you, Linda, and I'd be more than happy to help you, is we can look at your agreement. You should be able to, and we'll find out, that you could take your points. Let's say you paid, and we'll break this really simple. Let's say this is 2025 and you purchased a triannual, and your what is called your usage year is 2028, because you can delay or you can start usage years most likely whenever you want. It's up to we'll call the salespeople, but you do have a right as a consumer to say, hey, listen, we're not going to travel this year. Could you delay our start year 1 year? And usually what that does is delays the maintenance, and what it is delaying it, but they're breaking it up over a period of years.
Okay, so
right?
what you are describing, I have recently found out, we got a message from Getaway Resorts that we have so many points that we could carry over. We have to do it in writing by June 30th, and
Right.
there's a fee. There's a fee to do it.
There is, yeah. There's a fee to be able to what they call deposit. Then there's going to be a fee to do an exchange. Could be $179.
It wasn't through RCI. It was through Getaway Resorts. I mean,
we'll take a look at it, but I would be surprised they're under this. It's the same network, and you'll be able to deposit those points. So let's say your due date was June, as an example, June 2nd, June 3rd. You could deposit those points. Once they go to RCI, then you have 24 months to be able to use them. So when people buy, for instance, let's say when I was with Marriott, as an example, people would have their points that technically they had to make a decision by the end of the year whether they were going to roll their points over, because they do have an expiration of 2 years. But then they also have the right to say, you know what, I'm not going to use those points. I want to deposit them in Interval International. That then extends the lifetime of those points for the member to give them more flexibility to be able to use it. And sometimes that is not explained properly on how members can take advantage of it. But I would love to be able to walk through and be able to help you and make sure that, we can guide you in the right direction.
Okay, and let's, Scott, I just found right before the show that we have 3 people with this triennial problem, and as an excuse to have to upgrade. But Scott, before you share your experience, let us know, Jonathan, what VOA, Vacation Ownership Advisors, did I get that right?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
Vacation Ownership Advisor, VOA for short, or VOA Worldwide is the.
Yeah, so with my resort co-op that I described, I have a complimentary 1-year gift of Jonathan and his team at VOA to help me maximize the use of my points. Scott also has Wyndham points.
Yeah.
So, and I believe you said the fee was I didn't write it down, either $299 or $399, should I want to continue with your services in my year 2.
Yeah, yours is 249. My resort co-op is 249 annually.
Okay, 249. And so I would think you would really earn your keep for the price of one RCI exchange. If people want to vacation even 2 or 3 weeks a year to make use of your service. But so you provide, go ahead and then expand what I've said on what the services are that VOA provides.
Sure. We provide a post-sale solution in the timeshare vacation ownership industry for people that have bought, and we solve the disconnect in the industry where people purchase and then they might be unsure how to use everything. It's a very complicated system. I've been doing this for 25 years and you're constantly learning new things. And I wanted to create a company that would be, one, good for the developer, because the developer needs this, because they're focused on sales. They have salespeople that are selling. They're promising XYZ. Their intent is not, we're not going to say the intent is bad, but we'll say that it can be confusing sometimes, even for someone who has a PhD. And then what we do is we take in post-sale. So we partner with the resort and we walk that owner through proactively to be able to help them. We're not here to sell anything. We're not here to upgrade you. We're here to make sure that you really understand the value of your maintenance fee that you're paying, that you have a realistic expectation of what you can get, and we can help you get that. We also have travel options outside of your existing network. So if we're unable to find what you need inside of your network, we can go out and look for another avenue to be able to help you book and have a seamless experience with your ownership. And finally, we'll manage your entire travel portfolio. So if you have Amex points, Hilton Honors, Marriott Bonvoy, we're going to help you manage those points as well. So that if you're traveling to Europe, you might have 500,000 Marriott Bonvoy points. Maybe you want to stay in a really nice hotel. We're going to show you how to get the valuation, or maybe take the Amex points and convert it in and fly in a sleeper seat, and take advantage of that too as well. So
and before we continue, since we have 3 people, Linda, Scott, and Irene, that weren't aware that it was triennial, even though it was in their contract, do you feel, since that's such a material fact in this purchase, do you feel that was right for the sales agent to not mention it was triennial every 3rd year? Or Linda, do you feel like maybe you just misunderstood it? And Scott's going to weigh in on whether if that was deliberately omitted.
Right. And I do believe it was more of an intentional misunderstanding of what triennial meant. All the words were there. The 3 years was there, but again, our understanding was that we had those 3 years to use it, not just in that 3rd year.
But Scott, you were not aware it was 3 years until you received a phone call, did they use that as an excuse to upsell?
Yeah, so my story is almost identical to Linda's. It was the same thing. We were like the last people in. Some people bought, not a lot. We were one of the last people there. It's the same situation. They said that we had 24,000, and they said that you could use that over the 3 years. It wasn't that you had 1 year to use it and that's it. And the other 2 years you can't use it all. That was not explained to us whatsoever. It was just, and then you're signing pages and they say, oh, here's the triannual that we talked about, and here's your 24,000 points, sign here. It was never explained the way that it was the other day when they called me to try to upsell me to a larger, every year package or whatever they were trying to upsell me to. And I told the gentleman that was on the phone, I was like, you do know the reputation of your company, don't you? He had nothing to say.
It was the answer then, if you could only use it once in the 3rd year, every 3 years, was the answer to buy additional points to fill in those other 2 years?
Correct.
Okay, Jonathan, how would you rate that sales force?
I mean, the triannuals, I will tell you, from triannual memberships are very rarely sold now. Very rare. They were popular, we'll say 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Mostly people will say annuals or biannuals. Triennials can be confusing. because you're right. I mean, you're basically getting every third year to be able to take a vacation, unless you're savvy enough to really figure out how to navigate in between and, pull your points forward and deposit them into another exchange company. So I think it should be explained more clear to the client. And I know it is confusing, and I can't comment 100% because I wasn't sitting there on the table, right, to see how it was presented, but I understand what you're saying, and you're not the first two people that have ever said something like that, right? To feel that way. And if there's any type of clarification that myself or my team can help you with and provide post this meeting, we would love to be able to help you.
Jonathan, I had a question in regards to that. So you have a fee yearly for your team for you to help us in the post use of our points, correct?
Correct. We do. Yes.
So now that I have this train wreck and also Wyndham, 2 fees, 1 fee?
No, it's all, we manage somebody's entire profile. And the way that I have, and I'll be glad to talk with you after, this is all done and everything, is that the majority, everything, all the business that we're doing, we're a young company, we're 5 years old. You could Google us online. We've, been blessed with, multiple different awards and helping people out in the industry. Usually when someone purchases a travel club or a company that we are affiliated with, that membership from VOA is included for them as support, because that's the first year is the most critical, the first 30 days, 45 days. And then we work through and help the owner, and we're providing that feedback to the developer and working with you on a proactive level. We follow up every 45 days proactively just to see how you're doing, if there's anything we can do for you. It's a very different experience than standard customer service, but it is one fee. You could have 6 timeshares, and we're here to manage one portfolio for you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was shocked when the phone rang at 6 or 7 o'clock. It's 3 times in the first 30 days I signed up with my resort co-op, and it was Jonathan, wanting to know if he could help me. I'm like, boy, all of these complaints, or my sales agent said that he was going to be my personal consigliere. And here you have a real one that's, it really is a personal consigliere. Now let's go to the third triennial. We're going to go from the bad to the ugly, because Irene too has a very sad story, and it's also triennial, but it's even worse. So Irene, what we went over right before the show is one of the concerns you had is it was not called a timeshare.
Yes.
Now, yeah. And Jonathan, do you consider these credits to be a timeshare or a travel club?
It's a great question. Great question. So when you look at the word timeshare, and I'll keep this as simple as possible, right? Timeshare just involves sharing time, just like you would if you went to a restaurant, right? You're time sharing that table for an hour, and then someone else is going to come in. That's the real definition of timeshare.
The analogy.
The analogy, right, of it. And then people relate timeshare to something that was 15, 20 years ago, where you bought a specific week, you bought a location, and you owned a timeshare. That's what it was really. You're sharing 1/52nd of each.
That's your grandmother's timeshare.
Right. And what happened is it evolved and it changed as it became more flexible. They took the word timeshare out. Unfortunately, the word timeshare became a negative in a way. It does positive things for people if used the right way, but there was a negative perception. Then vacation clubs came about. The word vacation ownership, right, started to come in. And then as things started to switch to points ownership, and it went through. So I would call this specific a club. It's more a club. You're buying the Sapphire Club, and you're getting an RCI network and if you use the RCI network the right way, it's great. I mean, you can find some incredible, like I could go on RCI's website right now and book 1 and 2 bedroom condos for $100, $150 a night in Spain and everywhere. And it's just about knowing how to use it. And that's really what we're here to do, is to help, and provide the best service that we can. But I would call it more a travel club. And in essence.
Okay, and what Irene shared before is on October of 2023, they bought 24,000 credits. And for $5,995, they had $499 down. And then in May of 2024, and I do not understand this at all. Now, timeshares are typically financed over a 10-year period. But Irene, tell us about the phone call you got demanding that you pay your loan balance in full and why.
Yeah, somebody called us. His name is Carlos, and that's when we find out that the vacation getaway. We find out that it was a timeshare, and then he told us that we cannot cancel it unless we need to upgrade uh, to buy another become 10,000, and then we need to pay another down payment for us to get an exit, or if we want to donate it, because we were surprised asking us to pay it, and we told them that we don't have a money, and we don't understand that it's that the way we need to pay continuously for 45 years, and then at the end of the year we need to pay 720. So we calculated in a year we have to pay 3,000 continuously. That's why we were so upset, and we didn't use it since we paid since 2023 until now.
You have never used it.
No, because we are afraid that they might ask us to pay more money again. That's why we never intend to use it. That's why we're looking for an answer for us. Uh, we can exit or stop paying. But on Facebook, I see a lot of timeshare that I signed, but then later on I find out while watching YouTube about Tarda Group, and then I reach out to you guys. So sometimes sure that they're still continuing calling me. I stop because I need to pay money for them.
Yeah,
You know,
don't ever
Yeah.
do that.
yeah, in
Yeah.
order for us to get exit. So right now it's hard for us to pay continually. That's why I'm looking for someone to help us to stop payment.
Where was your purchase done? Is it U.S. or Mexico?
We attended the Jockey Club in
No.
Sapphire, Las Vegas, near Bellagio.
Right, next door to the Bellagio. So you signed up for it, and then you took their financing. Right.
Yeah, they told us to pay a monthly of 149 a month,
Yeah.
and then we give down payment for 500, and then we paid for a membership fee. And then I do not know that you cannot cancel it. Otherwise, we're not gonna sign it for that.
And do you still have the contract from that first purchase?
Uh, I do not know if this a contract. My husband, she's the one is the one who's receiving the email. I'm only the one who's looking for a solution to get out of this one.
Jonathan, do you know if travel clubs are financed over 10 years like timeshares because it's a smaller amount of money?
So they can be financed over 3 years, 48 months. It's really up to the developer who actually owns the travel club. And what may have happened here, there's two different scenarios that could have happened. One is the financing was done in-house, meaning that it's done under Sapphire Resorts, meaning they're the ones collecting, we'll call it the paper. But if the interest rate on your loan is 12.15%, 18%, most likely they have sold the paper to a separate finance company, and they've received what's called a buyout. So let's say your purchase price was $10,000. They sold the paper, the loan, to a separate management company, a separate company that's collecting the money. And then they received 90 cents on the dollar or 84 cents on the dollar, depending on how your credit score is. And that money's then paid up front, and then you're paying to a finance company. And that would only be known by looking at who you're paying your loan to.
Yeah, so what I see now from the one that my husband printed is we need to pay 84 months and the rate is 18.99%.
Yeah.
It-
It's the paper's been sold to a separate finance company. Odds are,
Was
and
that-
it's not
was that-
unethical to do that. It's just, that's how these companies, like, you can't operate a travel club or a timeshare without XYZ cash flow. It's impossible because your costs are so high. So that's where these finance companies come in to be able to provide, because your cost on that sale, if it's $10,000, could be upwards of 40 some percent, right, of your cost marketing.
Yeah.
So if your down payment was $500, there's 35 or 40% more of cost that you would have to outlay as a developer. So that's why they off sale, just like a car loan or something. They might sell the paper to a separate bank. That's what happened.
Was that 84 months for the first or the second purchase?
This is the second purchase. We need to pay for 84 months, and the rate this was 18.99. It's like 19%.
Okay. All right. So our process is to have you write up what happened, and we can't give legal advice. If someone wants a legal opinion, there's a good law firm in Las Vegas, but most people that come to us end up self-advocating, trying to resolve a dispute, and one option is to make the best of it. So Linda and Scott were concerned that they had to use everything in the third year. Maybe now that's not so true. You can make the best of it. And let's go ahead and move on to Joe. I forgot to. Linda's a former teacher, math intervention teacher as well. Scott works in the media undercover. And so where it's illegal, of course, to record in Florida without the other party aware, but it is legal in other states. And so we have, Jonathan, 10 people that it hasn't been since 2019. If you look at my Facebook banner photo, I have not seen this level of organization since Wyndham, Carriage Hills, and Carriage Ridge, where they would not let anyone exit for any reason. And if you died, they would go after your kids and grandkids for maintenance fees.
Yes.
And the owners organized and forced the sale of both resorts. They're no longer timeshare. Wyndham has certified exits that you can deed back your points. But if the HOA it was first owned by Shell Vacation, and then so it was up to the HOA, not Wyndham, who could exit. So now we have Joe, who I have someone in Hawaii that I knew when I saw that he has Hawaii in his email address, and I said, oh, I lived in Hawaii for 9 years. And I lived in Hawaii for 15 years. And I mentioned, well, I know the guy that invented the foam inside of surfboards. And when he said the name, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's him. So if you look behind him on the wall, Jonathan, he makes the most beautiful works of art. Are they full-size wooden surfboards, Joe?
They're just made out of plywood, and it's meant to have the illusion of an old school board. The good thing is I turn a lot better profit than the guys who make real surfboards. It's without the mess. I can do it here on my patio. It's great, and I'm getting killed right now with orders. So anyway, but
you ship them all over the world, though, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're all. I have one in South Korea that always cracks me up. Cool, South Korea, why not?
That's it. That's great. And again, we had Scott here with a Marine veteran, and we have Joe, a Navy veteran. So Kim is behind stage. I hope she's listening, but Joe was almost apologetic that, oh my God, you were on vacation and you were drinking. And so I said, oh, well, with our co-host, you don't have to be apologetic about that. But what was interesting is it is against state law. Where were you? And they just told you, don't tell anyone. So share a little bit of your experience. And you bought at Sedona Pines, as did Linda. So everybody sort of connected the dots here. So let us know your experience.
Real quick, Linda, where in Wisconsin are you?
I'm north of Green Bay.
Okay, I used to live in Racine many years too. Anyway, cool. So my wife's dad lives in just outside of Sedona, and we've done this before where you go through the grueling process. Sedona, we did in Cabo, knowing we're going to say no, just to get free whatever. So their incentive was to get a free stay at Sedona Pines, and so we get there, we're just saying whatever. We knew we had our meeting in an hour, so I started doing beers and wife, whatever. We're just hanging out, having a good time, thinking, well, okay, we'll be lubricated and get through this crap, and be done in an hour or whatever it is. And so we go in, and it's same old, and I didn't want anything to do with this, but the sales lady was good, and my wife's like, wow, their whole pitch that we got that we liked is you could stay in Big Bear, which we've used before, or Sedona for $299 for, I think it was 3 nights, no tax. And it was legit for a couple times, but it sounded good. And anyway, so I think I walked in with a beer, and the guy, they're doing no. Anyway, so I was telling the guy in there, hey, we've been having a good time, blah, blah, blah. And the sales guy said, do not mention that you've been drinking when you go in with the closing person, because it's illegal to do any real estate transaction while you've been drinking. I'm like, oh, okay, and I mean, who can prove that? Nobody can. But the wife was real. I would have never done this. And I'm not blaming my wife. I just did it. Happy wife, happy life, and regretted it from day one. As soon as I did it, I should have known better. I went and checked Sapphire's reviews, and I'm like, actually, it was a couple days later. I should have done it the next day. Then I'm like, oh my God, and that's what. But the thing is that we were able to use it a couple times for that $299, but then recently my wife she went to check in on something, and basically they said, no, we don't do those. We don't do that anymore. The $299 for 3 nights or 4 nights, whatever it was. I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about points. I've hated it all along, and I would never do this, but we did. So here we are. But anyway, so basically what they're saying now is, oh no, what we do now is 20% off rack rate at a place you want to stay at one of the properties. That's it. And I think somebody did tell her that you're better off going anywhere else. And we know we're better off going anywhere else, Airbnb or whatever. So this whole thing's just, and I think we're paid off with a stupid payment thing. We had $3,000 we got into it for. So
how many credits did you purchase? Do you know?
See, that's the thing. I don't want to sound stupid. I know I am, but I don't know. I didn't care. I just wanted to get the hell out of that office and go enjoy the weekend. I don't know anything about the credits or the points or anything. It just sounded good to me to have the $299 for 3 nights, which is $100 a night, no tax. It worked a couple times, and it would.
Hey Joe, was that in the contract? Did you see that anywhere? Because I really didn't even think about it.
The contracts, I have it right in that white cabinet behind me, and I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, one of it's in there.
Was what in the contract? The $299?
The $299 deal, like they're taking it away from you now. So I'm wondering if that's in the contract or not.
That's a good point. I need to look at it. Like I say, I'm an avoider with this thing because I hate it. I've hated it all along, especially after all the reviews I've read. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, it would behoove me to get in there and look at it.
So, Jonathan, I have a form here. It's just a sheet that's got the membership benefits.
Okay.
And the program allows you to book additional vacations at any Sapphire resort, an entire week for $200, a studio for $299, 1 bedroom for $399, all the way up to a 3 bedroom for $599. And then you can also get 4 nights, 3 nights. So we do have I have a membership benefit sheet here.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, and my wife's the one who handles all of it. She called, and somebody did end up saying that this is kind of worthless to you. What's 20% off rack rate?
And when people call us, they typically don't know what they have. And rather than have people flipping through contracts while they're talking to one of our volunteers, we say, read this article, and it includes gathering the 5 W's. If you have the sales agent's name that said something ridiculous, where did you buy? When did you buy? The exact date, the down payment. So when Joe first reached out, the only thing I knew was the agent, about the agent saying, don't say anything about drinking a beer, and Sedona Pines, and the purchase price was $3,000. We used it twice, and they have not asked to be released from the contract, which leads us to the big question: can we make the best of it, or are we going? One of you said you don't want to default, and I certainly understand that. And we don't have to answer it right this minute, but we're starting to run out of time. And Irene from our Facebook group, she sent me, this is kind of like a pre-show chat, and I want to make sure I get this in, is the first thing they said is, what is the FTC? So the Federal Trade Commission, Section 5, defines unfair and deceptive trade practices. And everybody, they are interested in timeshare. They work in conjunction with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I've been, and Kim has been at court hearings where, and I've been at the appellate court where they actually sent in an attorney to argue on behalf of timeshare plaintiffs. So the other thing they said at the presentation at the Icon Park, which several of the members want to hold a protest over Labor Day weekend, which we're thinking about, and especially with Scott having so much contact with the media. But they said at the presentation, the music was so loud you couldn't hear yourself think. And when she asked the sales agent, he said, to quote him, it was to pump up the energy. But then someone else said they were worried about people recording them. Well, in Florida, it's illegal to record without the other person being aware of it. I had one former sales agent that worked for Hyatt, and the former Diamond sales manager told her to buy the CIA manual on human manipulation. So having loud music, having the room that's sad. And then the same thing, they also said it was not a timeshare and that it includes Airbnb. I don't think you can use Sapphire credits or RCI credits to book at Airbnb. Have you ever heard of that, Jonathan? I don't think so.
No, I mean, there are homes, right, that you can get through the network, but Airbnbs are challenging because you can't really negotiate a private rate with somebody's home and then post it online and move it around. So it's always been a challenge, the Airbnb market in the hotel. But there are programs out there that do offer homes, and they do offer them at a discount. Third Home is one of them, which is out there, which is offered by Marriott, which is a great product. But it's not designed for that usage. If you're using an Airbnb, we recommend just book an Airbnb and enjoy it, and let's use your points in another strategic manner to give you more value somewhere else.
Right. I just want to add, and you guys probably know better than I do, that it's not really illegal to record, but odds are they're not going to let you use it in court. I don't think it's illegal to record when you're trying to protect yourself, especially when there's been so much misrepresentation of oral representation, which to me is illegal, misleading people. But Irene, you're kind of on the cue there when you're talking about when they've got a lot of distortion going on in the background with noise, so that if you do record something, it's very, very difficult to hear it. But we have heard recordings of people who legitimately told the sales rep, I've had a little too much to drink. And he goes, well, that's okay. We'll just sit here and just keep talking. You know what? And if you do that, they're just going to be hungover. So that's even worse. But, no sales should be done when someone has had too much to drink, like what happened to me. Tons of miss oral representation. So I don't think it's illegal to record. I think record all you want. Um, I personally have told exit companies that I've gone into with meetings, when they hold those little dinners that are free, I tell them up front I'm recording. And they go, oh, okay. And they lie anyway. Like, it's like Trump on TV, right? They just, every word comes out is lie, 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 lie. And so, I mean, I record them. They don't care. They know that even, and I got them on recording. Yeah, that's okay. Record us. I guess they think I'm not going to do anything with it. So,
With the people on our show, we're getting down to 5 minutes. I'd like to Linda and Scott and Joe. Jonathan has given us a lot to think about, but Jonathan, I'm starting to visualize, is there some kind of target promotion deal we can get going with VOA? Can Linda, Scott, and Joe call VOA for a one-time try it promotion? And how can, you said kind of suggested that you could reach out, Linda could reach out to you. What are you thinking?
No, I'd be glad to help out. I'd be glad to work something out. We can obviously discuss more after the show, however we want to do it. But, the whole reason of creating this company is to be able to help people that are in the timeshare industry, travel club, because the industry in whole, it's a great industry. It provides a lot of value if it's represented the right way and the expectations are delivered the right way. And, sometimes people buy the wrong product. It's not because it's their fault or anything like that. It might not have been the product that really suited their needs because the salesperson maybe didn't do their due diligence the right way and was worrying about selling something based on commission and not really selling them what's right for the client. So,
yeah.
Right.
Jonathan, real quick question, if you have a moment here right before.
Of course.
Breach of contract, and how about all these free gifts that they're offering? What is the story with that? Because I was like, oh, you got a free gift to California and Disneyland. Oh, you got a free gift to Hawaii. Did everything we had to do to get them, and haven't heard or seen anything about that. Where is breach of contract in regards to that, since I have the paperwork?
Right. No, Scott. Yeah, great point. So depending on how the gifts are presented, so gifts can either come directly from the developer or the owner of the travel club themselves, depending on how they are. It could be an internal that's offered directly from Sapphire, like a stay at one of their resorts, or it could be done by a separate marketing company which they partner with. And those certificates could be presented, and you probably hear this a lot, and we've seen it on the internet, is where people say, oh, I was given a free cruise, I'm given free airfare to go attend the presentation, and then I call and I have to pay upgrade fees. There's limited, availability, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I wish I could comment like legally on it. I can tell you that my personal opinion of those gift certificates is they should be dropped from an airplane like leaflets. I mean, they're the value that I really put on them, because it's like me telling you that I'm giving you a free cruise and then you have to pay port taxes and everything. I think there should be other forms of gifts that are brought in, like, resort credit. Marriott does a great job of it on how they bring in, they might do resort credit there. It's just different brand levels will do different things that are more credible. I don't know how far you can go on breach of contract. If it's said to you it's a free cruise, the first thing that I would do is I would have them say, listen, before I attend this presentation, I would like that in writing, that there's absolutely zero cost to be able to do this, to take advantage of this.
I don't even care about the zero cost. We just never saw them.
Okay.
They're, on their letterhead, but nothing.
So there's two things that could have happened. One is they didn't fulfill, right? Which is something that they would have to do. The other thing is they could have got to the end of the presentation, and then what they could have done is bought the gifts back. Sometimes travel clubs themselves will actually buy the gifts back at the end because they know that those gifts have issues and there's problems with them, and they don't want to deal with them post-sale because it's a separate company. So they will remove that from, but they have to clarify and tell the client. And
but we have Like I
You have-
still have it. We sent it away to get it, and it's in. I told.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, we're at the top of the hour, and this is actually building to be even a better conversation, so that we can talk about, you know, the what ifs and how tos. So maybe Jonathan will join us again. But everyone, you know what? Read your contract before you sign it. Take the extra hours. Ask if you can carry it out of the office. Of course, they're going to pressure sale and say, oh, if you buy now and if you don't buy now, but you know what? Another deal will be there tomorrow. And
But wait a minute. It's very important to say that there are too many things like availability that can't be determined by reading the contract. And that's what we're trying to
That is so true.
line.
And the biggest problem is that generally, and I need to get the information to Jonathan after my road trip, but you know, they make you wait 90 days now in order to activate, and 90 days after you sign the contract. So that was another problem I had, was, you know, improving the value of consideration, which is another, you know, term that people need to use. But I think it's been very helpful having Jonathan, who,
Yes,
you know,
ask the expert. We're here.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
Ask the expert. But everyone, you know, have a safe week. Every week, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Timeshare, Solution or Surrenders, Irene and Charted Team are providing all kinds of resources, experts now, and solutions, so that, you know what, you can find a solution to what you're unhappy about. Because no vacation should be misery, and that's what happens to some of these people.
And
So
thank
take
you,
care,
everyone.
stay healthy, and so that you stay wealthy, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Scott, thank you for your service. Love the hat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.